Hello, welcome to Dracula in Russian Lesson 11. If you have not listened to Lesson 10, please click on it now. If you are new to the channel, please click on Lesson 1.
Later in the day, I got together the whole crew and told them, as they evidently thought there was someone in the ship, we would search from stem to stern. First mate angry, said it was folly, and to yield to such foolish ideas would demoralize the men. Said he would engage to keep them out of trouble with a handspike. I let him take the helm, while the rest began thorough search, all keeping abreast with lanterns. We left no corner unsearched. As there were only the big wooden boxes, there were no odd corners where a man could hide. Men much relieved when search over, and went back to work cheerfully. First mate scowled, but said nothing. 22nd July. Rough weather last 3 days, and all hands busy with sails, no time to be frightened. Men seem to have forgotten their dread. Mate cheerful again, and all on good terms. Praised men for work in bad weather. Past Gibraltar and out through straits. All well. This is a reminder. Remember, night translates to noche, 24th of July. There seems some doom over this ship, already a hand short and entering on the Bay of Biscay with wild weather ahead, and yet last noche another man lost, disappeared. Like the first, he came off his watch and was not seen again. Men all in a panic of fear sent a round robin asking to have double watch as they fear to be alone. Mate angry. Fear there will be some trouble, as either he or the men will do some violence. This is a reminder. Remember, sleep translates to sput. This is a reminder. Remember how translates to cuck. 20th of July. 4 days in hell, knocking about in a sort of maelstrom and the wind a tempest. No sput for anyone. Men all worn out. Hardly no cuck to set a watch since no one fit to go on. Second mate volunteered to steer and watch and let men snatch a few hours sput. Wind abating, seas still terrific, but feel them less as ship is steadier. 29th of July, another tragedy. Had single watch tonight as crew too tired to double. When morning watch came on deck, could find no one except steersman. Raised outcry and all came on deck. Thorough search but no one found. Are now without second mate and crew in a panic. Mate and I agreed to go armed henceforth and wait for any sign of cause. This is a reminder. Remember, night translates to noche, 30th of July. Last noche. Rejoiced we are nearing England. Weather fine, all sails set. Retired, worn out, slept soundly, awaked by mate telling me that both man of watch and steersman missing. Only self and mate, and 2 hands left to work ship. This is a reminder. Remember, maid translates to zdale. We're in August. 2 days of fog, and not a sail sighted. Had hoped, when in the English Channel, to be able to signal for help or get in somewhere. Not having power to work sails, have to run before wind. Dare not lower, as could not raise them again. We seem to be drifting to some terrible doom. Mate now more demoralized than either of men. His stronger nature seems to have worked inwardly against himself. Men are beyond fear, working stolidly and patiently, with minds still up to worst. They are Russian, he Romanian. This is a reminder. Remember, sleep translates to sput, death August midnight. Woke up from few minutes, sput by hearing a cry, seemingly outside my port. Could see nothing in fog. Rushed on deck and ran against mate. Tells me heard cry and ran, but no sign of man on watch. One more gone. Lord help us. Mate says we must be past Straits of Dover, as in a moment of fog lifting he saw North Foreland, just as he heard the man cry out. If so, we are now off in the North Sea, and only God can guide us in the fog, which seems to move with us, and God seems to have deserted us. This is a reminder. Remember, night translates to noche. 3rd August. At midnight I went to relieve the man at the wheel, and when I got to it found no one there. The wind was steady, and as we ran before it there was no yawing. I dared not leave it, so shouted for the mate. After a few seconds he rushed up on deck in his flannels. He looked wild-eyed and haggard, and I greatly fear his reason has given way. He came close to me and whispered hoarsely, with his mouth to my ear, as though fearing the very air might hear. It is here, I know it now. On the watch last noche I saw it, like a man, tall and thin and ghastly pale. It was in the bows and looking out. I crept behind it and gave it my knife, but the knife went through it, empty as the air. And as he spoke, he took his knife and drove it savagely into space. Then he went on. But it is here, and I'll find it. It is in the hold, perhaps in one of those boxes. I'll unscrew them one by one and see. You work the helm." And with a warning smatrait and his finger on his lip, he went below. There was springing up a choppy wind, and I could not leave the helm. I saw him come out on deck again with a tool chest and a lantern, and go down the forward hatchway. He is mad, stark, raving mad, and it's no use my trying to stop him. He can't hurt those big boxes. They are invoiced as clay, and to pull them about is as harmless a thing as he can do. So here I stay, and mind the helm, and write these notes. I can only trust in God and wait till the fog clears. Then, if I can't steer to any harbor with the wind that is, I shall cut down sails and lie by and signal for help. This is a reminder. Remember made translates to zdelo. This is a reminder. Remember eyes translates to glaza. In the next paragraph we are introducing a new word. The word face translates to litso. This is a reminder. Remember how translates to cuck. It is nearly all over now. Just as I was beginning to hope that the mate would come out calmer, for I heard him knocking away at something in the hold, and work is good for him, there came up the hatchway a sudden startled scream, which still my blood run cold, and up on the deck he came as if shot from a gun, a raging madman, with his glaza rolling and his litso convulsed with fear. Save me! Save me!" he cried, and then looked round on the blanket of fog. His horror turned to despair, and in a steady voice he said, "You had better come too, Captain, before it is too late. He is there. I know the secret now. The sea will save me from him, and it is all that is left." Before I could say a word or move forward to seize him, he sprang on the bulwark and deliberately threw himself into the sea. I suppose I know the secret too now. It was this madman who had got rid of the men one by one, and now he has followed them himself. God help me. How am I to account for all these horrors when I get to port? When I get to port, will that ever be? This is a reminder. Remember night translates to noche. This is a reminder. Remember face translates to litso. This is a reminder. Remember poor translates to bedni. 4 August. Still fog which the sunrise cannot pierce. I know there is sunrise because I am a sailor. Why else I know not. I dared not go below. I dared not leave the helm. So here all noche I stayed, and in the dimness of the noche I saw it, him. God forgive me, but the mate was right to jump overboard. It was better to die like a man. To die like a sailor in blue water no man can object. But I am captain, and I must not leave my ship. But I shall baffle this fiend or monster, for I shall tie my hands to the wheel when my strength begins to fail, and along with them I shall tie that which it dare not touch. And then come good wind or foul, I shall save my soul and my honor as a captain. I am growing weaker, and the noche is coming on. If he can smatrait me in the litso again, I may not have time to act. If we are wrecked, mayhap this bottle may be found, and those who find it may understand. If not, well, then all men shall know that I have been true to my trust. God and the Blessed Virgin and the saints help a bedni ignorant soul trying to do his duty. Of course, the verdict was an open one. There is no evidence to adduce, and whether or not the man himself committed the murders there is now none to say. The folk here hold almost universally that the captain is simply a hero, and he is to be given a public funeral. Already it is arranged that his body is to be taken with a train of boats up the Esk for a piece, and then brought back to Tate Hill Pier and up the Abbey steps, for he is to be buried in the churchyard on the cliff. The owners of more than 100 boats have already given in their names as wishing to follow him to the grave. No trace has ever been found of the Veliki dog, at which there is much mourning, for with public opinion in its present state, he would, I believe, be adopted by the town. Tomorrow we'll see the funeral, and so will end this one more mystery of the sea. Mina Murray's journal. This is a reminder. Remember night translates to noche. This is a reminder. Remember sleep translates to sput. This is a reminder. Remember maid translates to zdelo. 8th of August. Lucy was very restless all noche, and I too could not sput. The storm was fearful, and as it boomed loudly among the chimney pots, it still me shudder. When a sharp puff came, it seemed to be like a distant gun. Strangely enough, Lucy did not wake, but she got up twice and dressed herself. Fortunately, each time I awoke in time and managed to undress her without waking her, and got her back to bed. It is a very strange thing, this sleepwalking, for as soon as her will is thwarted in any physical way, her intention, if there be any, disappears, and she yields herself almost exactly to the routine of her life. This is a reminder. Remember, night translates to noche. This is a reminder. Remember how translates to kak. Early in the morning, we both got up and went down to the harbor to see if anything had happened in the noche. There were very few people about, and though the sun was bright and the air clear and fresh, the big, grim-looking waves that seemed dark themselves because the foam that topped them was like snow, forced themselves in through the narrow mouth of the harbor, like a bullying man going through a crowd. Somehow I felt glad that Jonathan was not on the sea last noche, but on land. But, oh, is he on land or sea? Where is he? And Cuck, I'm getting fearfully anxious about him. If I only knew what to do and could do anything. This is a reminder. Remember, pour translates to bedni. This is a reminder. Remember, night translates to noche. This is a reminder. Remember, face translates to litso. This is a reminder. Remember, maid translates to zdelal. This is a reminder. Remember, eyes translates to glaza. 10th of August. The funeral of the Bedni sea captain today was most touching. Every boat in the harbor seemed to be there, and the coffin was carried by captains all the way from Tate Hill Pier up to the churchyard. Lucy came with me, and we went early to our starry seat, whilst the cortege of boats went up the river to the viaduct and came down again. We had a lovely view and saw the procession nearly all the way. The Bedni fellow was laid to rest quite near our seat, so that we stood on it when the time came and saw everything. Bedni Lucy seemed much upset. She was restless and uneasy all the time, and I cannot but think that her dreaming at noche is telling on her. She is quite odd in one thing. She will not admit to me that there is any cause for restlessness, or if there be, she does not understand it herself. There is an additional cause in that Bedni Stari. Mr. Swales was found dead this morning on our seat, his neck being broken. He had evidently, as the doctor said, fallen back in the seat in some sort of fright, for there was a smatret of fear and horror on his litso that the men said zdjel them shudder. Bedni dear Stari man. Perhaps he had seen death with his dying glaza. Lucy is so sweet and sensitive that she feels influences more acutely than other people do. Just now she was quite upset by a malinki thing which I did not much heed, though I am myself very fond of animals. One of the men who came up here often to smatret for the boats was followed by his dog. The dog is always with him. They are both quiet persons, and I never saw the man angry, nor heard the dog bark. During the service the dog would not come to its master, who was on the seat with us, but kept a few yards off, barking and howling. Its master spoke to it gently, and then harshly, and then angrily, but it would neither come nor cease to dale it a noise. It was in a sort of fury, with its glaza savage, and all its hairs bristling out like a cat's tail when puss is on the warpath. Finally the man, too, got angry, and jumped down and kicked the dog, and then took it by the scruff of the neck and half dragged and half threw it on the tombstone on which the seat is fixed. The moment it touched the stone, the Bedni thing became quiet and fell all into a tremble. It did not try to get away, but crouched down, quivering and cowering, and was in such a pitiable state of terror that I tried, though without effect, to comfort it. Lucy was full of pity, too, but she did not attempt to touch the dog, but looked at it in an agonized sort of way. I greatly fear that she is of too supersensitive a nature to go through the world without trouble. She will be dreaming of this tonight, I am sure. The whole agglomeration of things, the ship steered into port by a dead man, his attitude, tied to the wheel with a crucifix and beads, the touching funeral, the dog, now furious and now in terror, will all afford material for her dreams. I think it will be best for her to go to bed tired out physically, so I shall take her for a long walk by the cliffs to Robin Hood's Bay and back. She ought not to have much inclination for sleepwalking then. Chapter 8, Mina Murray's Journal. This is a reminder. Remember should translates to dolgen. This is a reminder. Remember maid translates to zdalal. This is a reminder. Remember how translates to cuck. Same Dane, 11 o'clock p.m. Oh, but I am tired. If it were not that I had zdalal my diary a duty, I dolgen not open it tonight. We had a lovely walk. Lucy, after a while, was in gay spirits, owing, I think, to some dear cows who came nosing towards us in a field close to the lighthouse and frightened the wits out of us. I believe we forgot everything except, of course, personal fear, and it seemed to wipe the slate clean and give us a fresh start. We had a capital severe tea at Robin Hood's Bay in a sweet Maalinki old-fashioned inn, with a bow window right over the seaweed-covered rocks of the strand. I believe we Dolgen have shocked the new woman with our appetites. Men are more tolerant, bless them. Then we walked home with some, or rather many, stoppages to rest, and with our hearts full of a constant dread of wild bulls. Lucy was really tired, and we intended to creep off to bed as soon as we could. The young curate came in, however, and Mrs. Westenra asked him to stay for supper. Lucy and I had both a fight for it with the dusty miller. I know it was a hard fight on my part, and I am quite heroic. I think that some dang the bishops must get together and see about breeding up a new class of curates who don't take supper, no matter cuck they may be pressed to, and who will know when girls are tired. Lucy is asleep and breathing softly. She has more color in her cheeks than usual and looks oh so sweet. If Mr. Holmwood fell in love with her, seeing her only in the drawing room, I wonder what he would say if he saw her now. Some of the new women writers will some dang start an idea that men and women Dolgen be allowed to see each other asleep before proposing or accepting. But I suppose the new woman won't condescend in future to accept. She will do the proposing herself. And a nice job she will dale it of it, too. There's some consolation in that. I am so happy tonight because dear Lucy seems better. I really believe she has turned the corner and that we are over her troubles with dreaming. I Dolgen be quite happy if I only knew if Jonathan, God bless and keep him. This is a reminder. Remember, sleep translates to sput. In the next paragraph, we are introducing a new word. The word room translates to komnata. This is a reminder. Remember, door translates to dvir. This is a reminder. Remember, night translates to noch. This is a reminder. Remember, por translates to bedni. This is a reminder. Remember, face translates to litso. This is a reminder. Remember, eyes translates to glaza. 11th of August, 3rd of AM. Diary again. No sput now, so I may as well write. I am too agitated to sput. We have had such an adventure, such an agonizing experience. I fell asleep as soon as I had closed my diary. Suddenly I became broad awake and sat up with a horrible sense of fear upon me and of some feeling of emptiness around me. The komnata was dark, so I could not see Lucy's bed. I stole across and felt for her. The bed was empty. I lit a match and found that she was not in the komnata. The dvir was shut but not locked as I had left it. I feared to wake her mother, who has been more than usually ill lately, so threw on some clothes and got ready to smatrate for her. As I was leaving the komnata, it struck me that the clothes she wore might give me some clue to her dreaming intention. Dressing gown would mean house, dress outside. Dressing gown and dress were both in their places. Thank God, I said to myself, she cannot be far, as she is only in her nightdress. I ran downstairs and looked in the sitting room. Not there. Then I looked in all the other open rooms of the house, with an ever-growing fear chilling my heart. Finally I came to the hall dvir and found it open. It was not wide open, but the catch of the lock had not caught. The people of the house are careful to lock the dvir every noche, so I feared that Lucy must have gone out, as she was. There was no time to think of what might happen. A vague, overmastering fear obscured all details. I took a big, heavy shawl and ran out. The clock was striking one as I was in the crescent, and there was not a soul in sight. I ran along the north terrace, but could see no sign of the white figure which I expected. At the edge of the west cliff above the pier, I looked across the harbor to the east cliff, in the hope or fear, I don't know which, of seeing Lucy in our favorite seat. There was a bright full moon, with heavy black, driving clouds, which threw the whole scene into a fleeting diorama of light and shade as they sailed across. For a moment or two I could see nothing, as the shadow of a cloud obscured St. Mary's Church and all around it. Then as the cloud passed, I could see the ruins of the abbey coming into view, and as the edge of a narrow band of light, as sharp as a sword cut, moved along, the church and the churchyard became gradually visible. Whatever my expectation was, it was not disappointed, for there, on our favorite seat, the silver light of the moon struck a half-reclining figure, snowy white. The coming of the cloud was too quick for me to see much, for shadow shut down on light almost immediately, but it seemed to me as though something dark stood behind the seat where the white figure shone and bent over it. What it was, whether man or beast, I could not tell. I did not wait to catch another glance, but flew down the steep steps to the pier and along by the fish market to the bridge, which was the only way to reach the east cliff.